John Gruss, we're going to start off with you with story number one. This is coming out of The Real Deal. I'm going to read you the headline for a couple graphs, and I want you to comment. Headline: Miami's Worldcenter pipeline of 8,400 resi units, 500 hotel keys. I should tell everybody, the Miami Worldcenter, for what it's worth, it was originally planned in the early 2000s during the last great condo boom. It's supposed to go on in an area where there used to be the old Miami Arena. There was also a homeless shelter called the Camille's House, as well as some other stuff. All of that has since moved. The old arena was torn down. And right now, there's a whole variety of condo projects and rental projects, as well as high-end retail that's getting built there. So that's the background of Miami Worldcenter. Where is it geographically? It is effectively about a block west of where the Miami Heat basketball team plays in the Kaseya Center, formerly known as the American Airlines Arena. So here we go with the first couple graphs, Sean. Developers are racing to Miami Worldcenter. The 27-acre master plan development is partially completed, but much of it is on tap. 17 towers are proposed, approved, or under construction, promising to transform a 10-block stretch in the heart of Miami into a canyon of skyscrapers. In total, the project would add nearly 8,500 condos and apartments, nearly 500 hotel keys, and nearly 800,000 square feet of commercial space, according to an analysis by The Real Deal. Miami Worldcenter Associates, led by Art Falcone and Nitin Motwani, in partnership with Los Angeles-based CIM Group, are the master developers of the $6 billion, with a B, $6 billion complex at the intersection of downtown Miami and the city's Park West neighborhood. Over the years, they've sold off buildable lots to developers while also building on their own or partnering with others on the project. Jean, 8,500 resi units. They're talking about in a 10-block stretch, 27 acres. Do we need that much damn space?
Yeah, it just seems like oversupply, and maybe the result of years of cheap financing, more than demand. This overwhelming supply is just almost inconceivable to me. I recently had a friend who was staying in that development in a hotel, and I mean, I have to say, from a planning perspective, it was really, really difficult to get to. It was really difficult to get around. I just can't imagine all these additional condo and apartment and hotel units. It's just a pretty massive. And, it just, I worry that that when the music stops, and it will stop at some point, a lot of these projects will be sort of halfway built or just newly built, and will sit empty for a while, and it's going to be, it's going to mean trouble. I mean, I think bringing all of that supply all at once is highly speculative. I mean, we've seen it before. I mean, Florida is boom and bust. That's the story of Florida. And this is another exhibit in the history of Florida.
There's a saying on Wall Street: buy on the rumor, sell on the news. This project was proposed back there in the 2003, 2004, 2005 boom. Never actually got off the ground. The developer had to unload some dirt, basically to try to stay afloat, if you will. Memory serves me correct. Here we are coming forward now. I just wonder, everybody thinks in real estate, you go ahead, you want to hurry up and invest now because it's only going to go up. But we're talking 20 years or so. Do you have any suggestions for maybe anybody who's out there who might be watching this podcast or listening to the podcast in terms of what kind of urgency is there? Does it make sense to go in early, or does it make more sense to some sort of, temper your enthusiasm and wait till it actually comes online to see what the hell you're getting?
Yeah, I mean, it depends where in the cycle you think we are. Are we close to the peak, or are we closer to the beginning? And I mean, we may have already passed the peak of the most recent boom. And so perhaps it might be wise to sort of take a step back and look and see what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know where we are in the cycle. I don't think anybody really does. But I would bet that we're closer to the end of this boom than we are at the beginning.
And to that point, Sean, there was a story that came out subsequently, and it's not in here, but one of the developers actually building a condo tower on spec. Spec meaning he does not have the sales, but he's that confident in the development. He's going to go ahead and self-fund it or fund it somehow without the pre-sales. Any reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, speculative construction is a hallmark of the boom. We've had speculative developments in Florida during every boom, and this time is no different. And you just it's a gamble. It's a gamble that you're going to fill the space, you're going to fill the units, and my hats off to developers. They got balls. They got the balls to do, they got the balls to do it. I mean, do it. I think it's highly risky, but I mean, if they pull it off, they're gonna make bank.
David Lyons, let me ask you a question. You're going on 50 years being a journalist, the lion's share down here in South Florida, a long time at the Miami Herald, where their headquarters used to be just up the street from this Miami Worldcenter that we're talking about. So you obviously know the area pretty well. You saw it from what it used to be to kind of what it is. Can you just provide some color for the audience, maybe people who aren't as familiar with Miami and some of its history, what was going on in this area, let's say from Bayside North to where the Herald headquarters used to be, and then the Bay West to like Interstate 95. Any kind of color description you can share with the audience?
Well, the one word I can use for the 1980s was raw. I mean, we all know what was driving the economy back then, and a certain product from the southern hemisphere came up here by water and boat, and I can remember standing. I don't think I was here, but a couple of months, and the Liberty City riots broke out. I remember standing on the roof of One Herald Plaza, glancing over toward Overtown and seeing a car on fire upside down in the middle of an intersection, and there were no firemen around because they didn't dare. And then, of course, as the years unfolded, that infamous Time magazine cover, that essentially described a city under siege. But the driving forces, it was kind of an outlaw type of an economy that was driving the construction and the building, and that spot that we're talking about now, the Worldcenter, is nothing but a bunch of low-lying warehouses and pawn shops and some late-night discos and whatnot, and it was not a place that you really want to be walking through at night, and so it was definitely as I said, it was a very raw type feel about the city, and there was a certain amount of glamour as a result of the Miami Vice police TV show with Don Johnson and all the rest. But that's when I think the architecture and the allure of Miami really started to come forward. Through the pop culture and the backdrop. It was a city that was pretty lawless. To the point where, people in Washington, they started an anti-drug task force, and the Blue Thunder era, so to speak. Customs got their speedboats to chase after the drug smuggler via speedboats. It all sounds like a hackneyed phrase or a story now, but I think that, and there was international banking, and there was a fair amount of trade going on between the South Florida and the Caribbean neighbors under the so-called Caribbean Basin Initiative, in which the countries got together and liberalized trade rules between the U.S. and the basin, and that really started to generate legitimate commerce, and it got us to the point where there was a fair amount of international banking. There was a class of bank in which a foreign bank could plant an office on Brickell Avenue and but not take domestic deposits. They could only do international business, and that was kind of the the baseline for the international financial business that we have here now today.
I will say before I go to the next story, this area, Miami Worldcenter, this is the first time I ever saw air conditioning compressors on top of the roof of a one-story warehouse, and they had cages around them so they wouldn't get stolen. Just to give you some context, back in the 1990s.